Here's your energy update for July 2020. This is a new window of opportunity. Hi, I'm Saratoga Ocean, and I help people to navigate their spiritual awakening so they can stay on a conscious path of ascension. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. Make sure to subscribe so you can join our powerful community of lightworkers and spiritual seekers. July 2020 is going to provide us with a very interesting window of opportunity. But it's going to be challenging because we're going to need to make some rather profound adjustments. July is going to give us a chance to reassess our direction and reset our consciousness in a big way. And this is really important because in some ways we have gotten a little bit off track. The first thing you need to do if you want to reset your consciousness and your direction in a positive way is to ascertain where you are right now. So let me lay a few things out for you guys so you don't have to figure it all out by yourself. Do you remember how many of us felt at the beginning of 2020? We were all so excited because 2020 was going to be a tremendous year of opportunity and expansion. But if you look at where things are now, you might ask yourself, where did we go wrong? Actually, we didn't go wrong at all. So let me explain. Prior to the advent of the virus, we were on an amazing upward spiral in terms of our awakening and our ascension journey. And if the foundation of our everyday lives had remained stable and predictable, we would be at an incredible point in our journey right now in 2020. I think we could all sense that amazing trajectory, and that's what we were focused on at the beginning of the year. So in that sense, we were totally right about our optimistic feelings. We really were on that awesome trajectory. The problem is that we did not have a complete context for our overall situation. We were only seeing part of the picture and assuming that our stable, regular world was going to remain basically the same. We were not accounting for the fact that this planet is a slave system and that we are being controlled by off-world beings who want to retain their control of this planet and stop our ascension. So in 2020, things started going downhill almost right away because the controllers could see that we were headed on an amazing upward spiral. They could see that things were going to be fabulous for us if nothing on the surface picture changed. So they had to try and reverse that powerful upward motion and turn it into a downward spiral. And they really went into high gear with the virus. Once again, you guys, they set a very clever trap for us. See, I like to let you guys know about these little traps so that you can start to become more aware of how we get sabotaged. The trap was the outrageous lie that our lockdown was very temporary and would only last for 2 weeks. We were told that after that period, we could go back to normal again. Well, we fell into that trap big time, didn't we? I mean, a 2-week lockdown would be hard to do, but it seemed like a reasonable effort to slow down the spread of the virus. I mean, looking back at that now, you kind of gotta laugh at how stupid we were to believe that lie. I remember when they said, oh, it would be inconceivable for the lockdown to last longer than 2 weeks. That would be just impossible, they said. No one could handle that, they said. So with those kinds of reassurances, we dutifully shut down our lives and marched into our homes to stay for 2 whole weeks. Well, you guys, at that point, they knew they had us in their trap. All of a sudden, the story started to change. The 2 weeks became 3 weeks, then 4 weeks, then 2 months, and you know the rest. And then they started adding things on. Social distancing, staying 6 feet apart, wearing masks, Remember at the beginning when we weren't supposed to wear any masks? Not seeing our friends and loved ones, not traveling, shutting down parks and recreation. I mean, it just went on and on and on. I mean, I recently heard a very prominent governor say that now the mask needs to become part of who we are. It needs to become our identity. Can you believe that? So this was all the beginning of their attempt to suffocate and destroy us. But the lockdown started to backfire because people had time to think. They started asking questions, and thus they began to awaken more and more. And that was the point where I was feeling pretty optimistic because we weren't falling for the attempted subversion of our awakening and our ascension. However, I have to be honest with you guys, I'm not feeling quite as optimistic today. And this is why the month of July is so important, because we are going to need to make some very deep decisions within ourselves about who we are and why we are on this planet over the next month or two. Now, my current lack of optimism is actually not due to what the controllers are trying to do to shut us down. My somehow waning optimism is due more to how we are handling it. Because you see, in the past month, I've kind of felt like the tide is turning a little bit in their favor. Do you want to know why? Because too many light workers and spiritual people have taken the bait and fallen into their most recent trap. Now, during the first phase of the lockdown, people were using that opportunity to accelerate and amplify their awakening. And at that point, we had a chance to come out and be even stronger in this battle for our souls. We were beginning to realize the oneness of who we are as a humanity. So the controllers had to do something to shift our minds into a very different agenda. See, guys, we have to wake up to the fact that this really is a battle. They decided to use a new weapon of fear and guilt, and unfortunately, they succeeded in shifting many spiritual people away from the cosmic agenda of ascension. Once again, they employed their usual playbook of sudden trauma by staging a horrific ritual murder, videotaping it, and then playing that video all around the world over and over and over again. Then they followed that up with anger, fear, mayhem, and violence to cause mass confusion. They tapped deeply into our subconscious fear and guilt about social justice and racism. They successfully shifted many people's attention away from their larger cosmic journey of ascension into one that was all about guilt, anger, human history, and collective shadow work. Now it became spiritual to feel guilty. It was spiritual to diminish yourself. It was spiritual to be as angry as possible. It was spiritual to focus all of your energy on resolving the collective traumas of the past. And if you are foolish enough to still want to have a high vibration and focus on love, well, then you're just spiritually bypassing. That's a nifty little phrase, isn't it? Let's talk for a moment about spiritual bypassing, shall we? There are spiritual teachers who are telling us that our new job is to process the collective traumas of humanity. Have you guys heard about that? I mean, seriously, you guys, we can barely process our own traumas from this one lifetime. And now we're supposed to process the entire human race's traumas and the whole history of humankind? So now we're being told by some that we not only need to do our own shadow work, we are responsible for doing the shadow work for the whole freaking planet. You're not going to live long enough for that, you guys, believe me. And if that's what you believe, you can probably forget all about ascension, because the only spiritual bypassing that's going to happen in that case is that ascension's probably going to bypass you. I don't know, I might have to do another video on this one of these days. We'll see. So the reason that I say that in that case, ascension could bypass you is because you have unwittingly stated that you're no longer interested in ascension as a priority. See, in this case, you've been convinced that it's more important to focus your time, your consciousness, and your energy on processing negative traumas for the entire world. And let's just be upfront about what these traumas are about. We are talking about skin-based traumas. It's all about skin. Now, why would that be so convenient for the controllers? Because skin is the outermost layer of your physical self. It's the part of your body that is farthest away from your heart. So as long as you keep your focus on skin, you will never be able to reconnect with the true oneness of the entire human race. Skin is what physically divides you from everyone else on a purely physical level. I mean, it's how you decide where you end and where someone else begins. And that's quite literal. So skin is all about the illusion, and heart is all about the truth. Heart is all about the oneness. Now, I want to just add one more thing about this idea of spiritual bypassing. That is a very derogatory and very judgmental term. If you're going to open yourself up to some stranger on the internet who is scolding you and accusing you of spiritual bypassing, then I'd suggest you consider taking your life back again. No one has the right to tell you what your process should look like and hurl spiritual accusations at you if you're not doing things their way. I mean, some of these people really don't know what they're talking about, you guys, because they're not even mentioning the bigger picture. And there's one other thing you really need to consider. A lot of people are really just recycling stuff they've heard other people say on the internet. Because that's what happens when you do not take a cosmic perspective on this planet. You really do run out of ideas at some point in time. Now, we are all very unique individuals, and our journeys are very unique and individual. We each have different needs at different times in our journey. Sometimes it's good to work on transmuting traumas and patterns that are impeding your awakening. And there are other times where it's far more appropriate to just seek peace and serenity. That's how we stay in balance. And a perfect stranger cannot tell you what is right for you. And that goes for me as well. I can't tell you what's right for you either. I just put out the information that I do for you to contemplate so you can decide for yourself. But it's always, always up to you and your heart to decide if any of what I say is a fit for you. You must always retain your sovereignty as a being, because that's what's been stolen from you on this slave planet. So that's what you need to reclaim first and foremost. Now let's talk about the month of July. We have a full moon lunar eclipse on July the 5th, and this represents the end of a certain era. It's a completion of sorts. So it's a great time to reassess your consciousness and your focus in your journey. You need to assess where you are and where you want to be, so that way you know what to let go of. Now, here's what I want to point out. The media has been extremely effective at shifting many people's agendas away from ascension and onto a social justice agenda. Now, I'm not suggesting that social justice is not important, but time is running out, you guys, and you need to be very conscious about what it is you prioritize. We are definitely not going to ascend by trying to solve every single human problem on this planet first. There is not enough time, and ascension doesn't work that way. Ascension is about solving all of our human problems and issues at a much larger scale. So let me give you an analogy. Imagine that you have a bucket that is labeled in this way. Suffering, pain, violence, fear, and death exist inside this bucket. Inside the bucket, there are millions and millions and millions of problems related to these things. Social injustice is one of them. Racism is one of them. Now, you could spend 1,000 years dealing with just one of these, and it's going to keep coming back like the scourge that it is. It will keep coming back because it's the bucket that makes it possible. The bucket itself is the thing that gives rise to that problem. So the people who tell you that you must first deal with each of these human problems before you can get anywhere in this universe are missing the point entirely. We need to deal with the bucket itself, which is the primary cause of this entire mess. And that can only be done when you release your fixation on planetary minutia and shift into a cosmic level of consciousness and stay there. See, the controllers want you fixated on that minutia because they know there's no getting out if that's where your focus is. See, you will never understand what is going on this planet from an earth-based, earth-bound perspective. You can only understand it from a cosmic extraterrestrial level. And that is the opportunity that ascension and your spiritual awakening afford you. So in this month of July, I suggest that you revisit your sense of priorities. Have you compromised your focus on ascension and on your awakening because the media tells you that something else is more important? And if you have, you need to understand, you guys, they are not done with you yet. They are going to keep piling it on until they succeed at burying you. And for those spiritual people who have taken the bait and sidelined their focus on the immense power of love, light, and cosmic ascension in favor of a new primary focus on social justice, well, of course they're free to do that. But you should understand that if they criticize you for not following along, it probably means that they're not quite as secure in that decision as they might appear to be. Now, the next 2 months are going to be very critical. I have this weird feeling about September, and I kind of hope I'm wrong about it. I keep feeling like September is going to possibly be a difficult month with some maybe not so pleasant surprises. And I'm curious if any of you guys have any sense of that. And if so, let me know in the comments. What are your thoughts about September if you have any? So July is a good month to refresh yourself and reestablish a conscious alignment with what matters most to you. Because how we position ourselves during these next 2 months is going to determine our trajectory for a long time to come. And please understand that raising your vibration, meditation, and focusing on love and light is not spiritual bypassing. It is actually the main point. Now check out my video on Ascension if you want to understand why this truly matters. Realize that the media is going to continue to tell us what reality is. Isn't it about time that we stop believing everything that they say? Isn't it time that we say, no, that's not a priority just because you say so? Or, no, you don't get to be the one who delivers the daily thoughts into my mind. I, as a cosmic creator, will decide what the priority is for me. I will decide what visions I hold in my mind. And then you could say, it's time that your reign of mind control comes to an end. I mean, doesn't it feel good to make those statements related to the media? So in July, take a powerful stand for your sovereignty. And then decide what you want your life to look like and how you plan to get there. And use this time to reevaluate your level of self-care. How can you upgrade your level of self-care to increase your level of vitality and strength for the coming days? And don't let the conditions of this world set the standard for you. You are always free to have a much higher standard for your experience. You cannot ascend to a higher level if you are not willing to set your standard of experience at that same higher level. Now we are going to continue to move into uncharted waters. The lockdowns might continue and they might even get a little bit worse. So be prepared and be proactive. You are going to need to establish a positive outlook and a positive high vibrational energy. And don't let anyone ever tell you that you are bad for doing so. Because, guys, that's the trap. So to conclude, overall, I just want to encourage you to maintain as high a vibration as you possibly can. Because that's what's going to attune you to those higher dimensions and beyond. And if your heart tells you, or if you become aware that there are traumas and patterns and densities within you that are in the way of your expansion of consciousness, well then by all means, do something to transmute that energy in whatever way and in whatever timing feels best for you. But always with the goal of raising your vibration and expanding your light. Because that's also what will put you in alignment with the cosmic forces that are here to support us through all of this turmoil. And that's what will give you the strength that you are going to need. Now, before I go, I want to remind you guys that I will soon be releasing my digital course, Meditation for Spiritual Awakening. This course has 11 video lessons and 12 guided meditations that will help you enormously through anything that we have yet to encounter. And I have a waiting list for anyone who wants notification and early access before I release it to the public. And I'm also going to give the people on my wait list a special limited time discount. So the link to get on the wait list is in the description below. So be sure to get on that list if you haven't done so already. And remember to make meditation a daily habit if you haven't already, because meditation is a very powerful anchor in the midst of this storm of everything going on this planet. Now, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it out with your friends. And be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because I am here every Sunday, Tuesday, and Friday with new videos. With that, I'm sending you all much love for a beautiful, transformative month of July. Stay sovereign and stay in your power. Namaste, everyone.